Oh, yes, the lights are on inside Studio A, and everybody is starting to turn their attention to the hardwood as now the college football season is officially in the books with Monday's national championship game now donezo. But now it's all about basketball. Today we are going to review and preview the American Conference women's game and where they currently stand across the board. Alongside Maria Trivelpiece, I'm Kyle Youmans. So glad you're with us. We've got a jam-packed show for you today, talking through what has already happened in the American Conference through the women's game, and then also continuing on to what is coming up, so you don't want to miss it as we go along. Just like on the men's side, wide open to start, but now we've got a couple front runners starting to emerge.
And that's where my question marks are, because those front runners in the top of the conference is just my favorite thing to look at right now because of how many teams are so close. And just when I think, oh, this is the team that's going to pull away, they lose a game. And then somebody else comes in. I'm not doubting Rice, though. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the standings as they sit right now.
Yeah, you got a couple of teams right there at the top. Of course, Rice still helping lead the tone. They win their first 5 games of conference play. They win double digits in a row under Lindsay Edmunds for the first time since she took over a couple seasons back. And then, of course, there's a kerfuffle of teams right after that. East Carolina, South Florida, Tulsa, UTSA, North Texas, all in that mix of teams that they've just started beating each other, and that's where I think things get really interesting right now when you take a look at the standings. And all teams are playing good basketball. You talk about Rice and the win streak that they put together. Talk about East Carolina, who after a loss to North Texas turned it around, won a couple straight games. South Florida has been rolling after their opening loss to Rice in what was a really close back and forth game between two of the top teams in the conference. It's been a fun start to the season, and I think it's just going to continue to get better and better and better.
I think kerfuffle is your new favorite word because you used it on the show last week.
Did I use it last week?
You did. It's funny because at Media Day we did a whole bit with Andy Kennedy and seeing if he could get kerfuffle into his little Media Day.
That's such a great word.
It is, but it perfectly describes
what's
happening.
that I used it 2 weeks in a row, though. That's unfortunate for me.
It's just unique, so that's why I had noticed it.
Not a kerfuffle. What's another one? I don't know. But
we're going
now
with
I'm
kerfuffle.
stuck with kerfuffle.
Now he's all flustered. But
now I'm a bottleneck of teams right up at the top of the schedule.
A team that's not in the kerfuffle right now, but has pulled away as we speak, are the Rice Owls. They're 5-0 in conference play. They're on a 10-game winning streak, the longest in the Lindsay Edmunds era. That's entering Tuesday. So we'll see what happens in that Tuesday night game. But somebody who has had the opportunity to be on the call for a few Rice Owls games is none other than Brooke Kirchhofer, and she's going to join us on All-American today.
Right now.
She's here. There she is.
In the building.
She's made the appearance. Brooke,
except not
welcome.
in the building.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
So we just talked about kerfuffles and a lot of dominance at the top of the American. For you, though, you've gotten to see this Rice team in person. So do you believe they're the real deal? Like, what has stood out to you about them?
There's no kerfuffle in Houston, Texas. I can tell you that much. They are the most consistent team in the American Conference right now. And a big part of it is what they built in the offseason. One of the things that head coach Lindsay Edmunds talked about over and over as they were getting ready for the season was we were too focused on what was ahead. They felt like their eyes were so big on March and the tournament. So their motto this year is TNT. Today, not tomorrow. And they try to find something before every game to try and get the players' attention. The coaching staff will come together and say, what edge can we bring into practice to challenge the girls, especially when you're on a 10-game win streak. The last thing you want is a drop-off. And so they really just challenge their players week in and week out. They make practices really hard. Helps when you have continuity. They only had to go to the portal for 2 players, and Luann Batty-Stone, in my opinion, has been the steal of the portal.
Yeah, transfer from Duke. She's averaged right around 7 per game, but she does a lot more than just put up points. She's kind of the glue person back and forth. When it comes to this team, and you talked about it, and by the way, I looked up some synonyms: brouhaha, convulsion, melee, splash, all these different things when it comes to the kerfuffle in the American, and I thought you put it perfectly there. They're a team that's just fundamental. They do the right things. They don't turn the basketball over. Fewest turnovers in the American Conference through the first few weeks of the season. They don't cause turnovers, but they're still so good in the turnover margin because they take care of the basketball as well as they do. Now, their shooting, solid. Their defense, solid. All of these things play a factor. Where do you feel like the identity of this team is because of what they've shown so far this season?
Well, it's new for this Rice team. Their identity started in their defense. And if you look at Lindsay Edmunds' teams in the past, it has absolutely been offense-minded first. The defense really showed up, and that's something that they hung their hat on in the non-conference, and we're waiting for the offensive production to come through after that. If you look at a Victoria Flores, at one point, she was leading the team in rebounds before conference play. I mean, that's their starting point guard, and her confidence is back up in the scoring. But truly, the turning point for me with the Rice Owls was against UNLV in the offseason. They absolutely took a tournament team and just absolutely dominated them at home. So much so that UNLV's head coach called a timeout just to essentially wear her team out and say, what are we doing? I mean, this team absolutely has this figured out. I also think they have unlocked Shelby Hayes. She was that 1-2 punch with Susie and Gulafak last year. Susie and Gulafak was the true post player that they would go to, and Shelby Hayes would just come in and support some minutes so that she could get time off. Well, now it's Shelby Hayes, and they play through her. Their entire offense runs through her with their inside-out game. She's a bucket every time they need it, and also a bucket from the three-point line that's been consistent is Dominique Ennis. That's what that inside-out game. They're just so tough to defend because you have to pick and choose where you are going to try and take away their game, and they can score in all three levels.
Well, Brooke, you kind of took my next question because it was going to be about Shelby Hayes and exactly what you said. Just the way that she has stepped up her game this season from last year to this year has been incredible. But I think the one thing that's really stood out to me, that TNT motto, as you mentioned, but players from last year who stayed at Rice, they didn't have to go to the portal that much, are now stepping up their game to an even higher level. So you mentioned somebody like a Dominique Ennis or even an Anaya Alexis. For you, what do you think it is about those players and some of the returners that has helped them elevate to the next level?
Just unselfish. And I think you guys understand too, just how challenging it is to be a Rice student athlete. They're very analytical. The degrees that they are studying are degrees I would never touch as a journalist major. But I think that really translates to the basketball game for them, specifically with Anaya Alexis. You mentioned her free throw shooting game. She's shooting 100% right now. That's unheard of this deep into the schedule. I think she's 41 for 41 at this point before the Tulsa game. And Coach Edmunds told us in the offseason, her office got moved, and it was right next to a window that looked into the gym. And she said, every time I heard a ball bouncing, it was Anaya Alexis working on her shot. She would take, I think, 1,000 threes every day, something crazy like that. She just really, really tried to step up her game. And then you talk about a Dominique Ennis, who has already kind of shown what she can bring. But when you talk about who they lost in Malia Fisher, Susie and Gulafak, Maya Bukanevich, Trinity Goodman, Emily Klazak, a lot of those players are three-point shooters. After the Princeton loss, Coach Edmunds took Ennis to the side and said, look, 10 points isn't good enough anymore. We need you to be the player who is closer to that 20-point range night in and night out. And I think she's answered that challenge, as well as some of these younger players who have had to fill some very large shoes.
I think you bring up a great point, because not having the type of impact from a player like Malia Fisher, you would think there's some level of drop-off. But as you see there are 4 players in double figures, 5 right on the cusp of that, and last year there were just 2. It was Ennis and it was Fisher. Those were the only 2 that averaged in double figures for Rice last year. One player that I do want to highlight in the game that we called this past week up in Denton, a close win for Rice against a North Texas team that was really gritty. That was a lunch pail type of game for Rice to end up winning. I thought the lunch pail was brought by a particular player in Haley Adams. I love her game. She is an all-around player. The biggest thing for me is the fact that she's a 6'1" guard, so she's already a taller guard, but she leads the conference in blocks. She leads the conference, or is one of the top 3 in the conference in terms of rebounds. She does the dirty work. She's not necessarily going to put up a ton of points, averages 8.5 a game. but she's not going to put up a ton of points, but she's a double-double threat, and she is a menace on the defensive end of the floor. How big has she been for Coach Edmunds' squad this year?
Has been absolutely huge. And the fact that we're just now talking about her speaks to the level of depth on this year's team. And I think that is going to carry the Rice Owls in the postseason. But speaking of what Haley Adams does, you've heard her called the Swiss Army knife, that she can do everything. She really can. She understands the 1 through 5 positions. Obviously, you're not going to see her running the point, but you will see sometimes where she does have to carry the ball up herself. She's confident in that. Not a lot of true 4-5s will do that. And she has been somebody that Coach Edmunds says, look, if we have injuries or we need something to happen on the defensive end, I can just go to her and trust her that she'll be able to handle it. And she really set high expectations for herself in the offseason. Coach Edmunds showed me a list that Haley Adams wanted some of these awards at the end of the year. And so she still got a long way to get there in terms of being at the top of the table. But you mentioned leading the conference in blocks, and what she does in tandem with Shelby Hayes, I think, is the best part about her game. She's really learned how to play off of Shelby Hayes, even trying to see where the point guard Victoria Flores, if she's in trouble, where can I be to help them out and figure out things on the offensive end. And I think that's why they're so hard to defend.
I think it's so interesting because she's an engineering major at Rice. Two things that don't sound easy. She makes it look easy because she's a student athlete as well. She does everything right on the basketball floor, and she's got a 3.5 and above GPA. I don't have the updated number, but that's let's just assume it's really good. She is an all-around individual, and even Coach Edmunds said she is one of the more amazing people she's ever come in contact with. So awesome stuff. Brooke Kirchhofer here for All-American covering Rice. When is the next time you're going to be on the floor watching this Rice Owls team?
I will be there this weekend as the Rice Owls take on Tulane at home. So that'll be nice for me, covering Tulane from the local TV perspective in New Orleans for a while. So looking forward to it. The question is, can Tulane handle this defensive pressure they're going to face for 40 minutes.
It might be 90 if it gets into like
90,
really
sorry.
A couple extra overtimes.
Calling soccer in between basketball this time of the year.
Too many
as soon as I said, I was like, nope, wrong sport.
That's
40
okay.
minutes. But they absolutely can beat a team for 40 minutes, and it's the depth on that bench that provides it. So we'll see what Tulane can do on the road.
Awesome stuff. Brooke, thanks so much for taking some time. Say hi to my guy, Jason Metco, out there, who does a great job on the ESPN Plus broadcast as well. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There she goes. And one thing in that conversation there, we went through the entire starting five for Rice. We went through Hayes, Flores, Alexis, Adams, Ennis. They've started every game, all 18 games for Rice so far this season. And this is a team that is in their third year with the American. They've gone to the tournament final both times. Previously, won one of the two. They were a 9 seed in the one that they lost. This is the best team that Coach Edmunds has had, the best team that Rice has had in the American Conference. That's scary.
Well, I think the thing that impresses me the most is going into last season, I thought that the way that this current team is performing, that's how that team was going to perform. But I think Brooke brought up a great point about what Coach Edmunds said about the pressure that team was putting on them. They had some phenomenal players in Malia Fisher, Ngulafak. I'm blanking on her first name right now, but
you got the last name.
Susie Ngulafak. I know. I remembered how to say the last name, but just those players were so good, and I think that they just wanted to win so bad, and you saw them starting to put it together at the end of the season, making that run in the tournament. And so I think it's really exciting because you see them get better year by year, whether it's the players that are staying, whether it's what the coaching staff's adjustments are going to be. And so I'm excited to see this team, especially come March.
When we talked to Coach Edmunds last week, her big thing was, let's not waste time in the regular season. Our goal is to peak in March like we have the last couple of times.
Right.
But let's not put ourselves in a tough situation. Let's try and make the road a little bit easier so that way you have an opportunity, especially with the new tournament format. It's more important this year than it ever has been in the American. So can't wait to see what Rice does. Also, I love how you had to decipher in Ngulafak there. It's like Smith and Johnson. It's a common last name. Might get them mixed up with one other person that's out there. You never know.
Listen, I will never. That was like one of my first things on the job in the American was Basketball Media Day last year, and I had to interview Susie Ngulafak and Malia Fisher, and I was like, I will not get this last name wrong because everybody messes up my last name.
Got it wrong. Trivelpiece. But two legends of Rice, and they left that program in better shape than they found it, and you can see the results of that here in 2026. Really exciting stuff going on down in Houston. It's been pretty exciting for East Carolina and the Pirates as of late. Congratulations to Coach Kim McNeill, 100 career wins as a head coach as well. She is also a joy to talk to and get to catch up on. Of course, she was previously at Hartford and now over 100 wins in her career, and her East Carolina Pirates are rolling in the right direction.
Listen, you know how the American talks so much about wanting grittiness and gritty teams? Grit is the epitome of what this conference is about. That's what East Carolina women's basketball is about. And it starts with their defense. That's Kim McNeill's number one priority. Offense will come. She is so focused on having one of the best defenses, not only in the conference, but in the country. I remember doing a game with her last year. I think they were playing UTSA, and they were leading the conference in so many defensive categories, and she was still not pleased with what the numbers were. She was like, well, last season we were way better, so I don't know why anyone thinks this is good. And I think that that's a big reason why they're winning games right now. Now, they also are getting some offensive production, but the way that this defense just gets up on people, the way that they're relentless and gritty, and keep going back to that word, just epitomizes what the Pirates are this season.
I love how you say they're having some offensive production. They're the number one offense statistically
I know, but
in the American Conference right now.
I got to talk about
Well, they're top 5 in the American Conference. So they are putting up the numbers that Coach McNeill brings to the table. They're averaging over 73 points per game. They are allowing only 66 points per game. This is a well-rounded team, and you've seen that these last few weeks. Of course, they start the conference slate with an overtime win against UAB. They get a win against Memphis. Those are 2 games they probably should win, and they did win. Had the American Conference Player of the Week in Rimpert that week whenever they had the overtime win against UAB. Did not play well against North Texas, and you could tell by the body language on the floor. You could tell by the way they ended that game. That was not an East Carolina performance. Well, they've proved that with 3 straight absolute beatdowns. How about taking down Wichita State 83-56? Beatdown. Tulsa. That's a good Tulsa team.
Good Tulsa team.
79-48 beatdown. And then take a guess of what they did to Temple.
Tell me.
Beat down 81-65. Now, still a long way to go because they've got a schedule in front of them that they need to take care of. UTSA, UAB, Wichita State, Charlotte. Then you get into the back half of the schedule. They don't have a return trip from North Texas. They don't get to play them at home, which I think if East Carolina wanted a shot at somebody, it would be North Texas again.
Right.
But you have to play South Florida at home. You are at Tulane, at Temple. Then you get to Rice later in the year at home. You get Tulsa on the road. There's not a schedule in front of them where I look at it and say they're going to be a bottom half team. I think this is a top 5 team in the American, and if they win the games they probably should, they are fighting for a couple of buys, whether it's straight to the semifinals or straight to the quarterfinals. They have an opportunity to really do something special.
Well, when you take a look at that Tulsa score, that's the most convincing win for me in terms of conference play, because we just talked about their defense, right? And you're like, they're also the top offense, but look at what they allowed. 48 points allowed to a good Tulsa team. Yeah. And so that great defense is contributing them and giving them opportunities to score more points. And I think you bring up another really good point of, all right, different production from different people. Kiana Rembert, she comes over from Charlotte. So Kim McNeill hitting the portal. Their leading scorer in Kennedy Fauntleroy, this is her 4th school in 4 years. She has a ton of college basketball experience. She was the Big East Freshman of the Year. So she's bringing that to this program, along with some good returners like a Jayla Herb, like an Anjanae Hutton. So I think that there's just so many different people who are scoring in this team, and that's how defense creates offense. Because look, nobody's that far ahead of anyone. You know, everybody's around 9, 10, and then obviously Fauntleroy with 13.8. So I think that's the part that has been exciting for me, is you never know who's going to have the big night. Yeah,
and Fauntleroy is one of the top all-around players in the conference. The transfer from Arizona State, you talked about her previous experience playing at Oklahoma State and Georgetown as well. But when she arrived on campus, they knew she would score, and you can see that there with the offensive depth. But Kim McNeill said her challenge to Fauntleroy wasn't just to put up numbers, because that's going to come naturally. She wants her to win Defensive Player of the Year in the conference.
I love that.
That's not just let's find a way to put up a couple of good defensive possessions and then we need you to score. No. You need to be a lockdown defender and possibly the highest scorer on the team. That puts a challenge on her. And if that's the case, she's not contending just for Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. She would contend for the overall Player of the Year in the conference. Now, there are a couple other candidates in that as well, but first team all-conference still very much so in favor, a possibility for Kennedy Fauntleroy. This team feeds off of the energy from her coaching staff, and it's somebody different on different nights. Jayla Herp has put together some solid performances. She had 16 points and 9 rebounds against Memphis. You had Zanaya Zealous, who at different times as a freshman out of Charleston, West Virginia. There are a couple different areas where she's made an impact as a defender, as a post presence, as a shot blocker. All of those things play a factor. And then, of course, Kiana Rembert, another transfer. We've seen this as a common theme through a lot of these top teams are transfers within the conference that are making an impact. She's a transfer from Charlotte. She is one of those players that didn't necessarily have the non-conference slate that Kim McNeill wanted, but started to step it up as soon as it started to turn. Calendar turns to 2026. It starts to get into conference play, and the games mean so much more. Rembert has stepped up big, and she has continued that throughout the winning streak and getting East Carolina back into contention just like they anticipated to be.
And I think getting back into contention is so funny because they've had so much success under Kim McNeill.
Yeah.
Last year they were right there, but they couldn't seem to put the pieces together.
Lost a lot of close games.
Yes, exactly. And that's the difference for this year. I think that this team, the pieces that Kim McNeill has brought in, mixed with the returners, they're bought into what she's selling, that defensive branded basketball that's contributing to offense. So many different contributors. I think the sky's the limit right now. That's such a cliche, but I think the sky is the limit right now for East Carolina and what they could do in this conference.
When you look at the schedule and you look at the expectations, they're already exceeding expectations. They're second in the conference, and they were picked 7th. This East Carolina team has the depth. Let me say the high-end talent. That's where I think there might be one tiny little question mark, is the depth, because you look at their bench, they don't get a ton of bench production. Every once in a while, they'll have somebody step up. I think Taylor Barner, another transfer from within the conference, formerly in Memphis, she'll step up and have a solid scoring average. She's averaging in double figures as well. But in conference play, she's been a little more subdued than she was initially. And then it's a lot of youth. It's Mildred DeBua. It's Olivia Hilliard. Azani Hutton is a transfer, a veteran from UCF who has played significant minutes, 27 minutes a game throughout the year. So I think the depth is where I have the biggest question with East Carolina, but I still think this is a really good basketball team, and they're moving in the right direction with a solid coaching staff that I think they believe in.
Well, you just mentioned that they're exceeding expectations. One team that is meeting expectations are the South Florida Bulls. Now, I know that they were picked to win, finished first. They're right there at the top with just one loss right now to that Rice Owls team. And so I think that's a team that I'm excited about, especially because, yes, they're picked to finish high in the conference, but they lose their head coach just weeks before the season. Somebody who's been at South Florida forever. Jose Fernandez goes to the Dallas Wings, and still to have the success that they're seeing in conference play, I think that's a huge testament to the program that he left behind and the young women who are still battling to win basketball games. I
also think it's a testament to Michelle Woods-Baxter, who has stepped in as the interim head coach. Have they taken the tag off of that yet?
I don't know.
They probably should.
Let me check.
If they haven't already. I'm not trying to make any employment decisions at South Florida, but let's be completely honest. This is her 18th season at South Florida.
Right.
And then her first in a head coaching role, but she was an associate head coach under Jose Fernandez, who's a legend at the women's college basketball level, so much so that he takes the WNBA head coaching job with the Dallas Wings. So Michelle Woods-Baxter turns around, and she takes over a program that she's extremely comfortable with, and it looks that way. They're 3 points away from being undefeated in conference play with that win against Rice. And we're talking about them as, they were picked to win, and they're currently undefeated in conference play.
Meeting expectations.
And maybe exceeding them given the coaching situation. So I really do think South Florida, man, I wouldn't want to play them. If I'm anybody in this conference, I would not want to play South Florida. I would not want to play the Bulls. They are stacked, just as they have been in years past. They find a way to do it again this year as well.
Well, I think the big thing for them is they had a good base returning in Carla Brito, Lord Putu, some of those other players who had a lot of minutes last year, but they add transfers, especially graduate student transfers who are leading the way. An Eden Battle, a Katie Davidson, like there's just so many. You see Stephanie Ingram on there too. They brought in these players who had a lot of college basketball experience at various different levels, and it's like a seamless transition. You pair them with players who have been in the South Florida system, who knows how to win basketball games, who have seen success in the American Conference, and they play a really tough non-conference schedule, right? And you're unsure, I don't know what's going to happen. That prepares them when they get into the American because they're ready to compete at a really high level.
You know what's really fun? And like you said, they come in from different backgrounds, but you look at Battle on the left, Davidson in the middle, they were former teammates.
Yeah.
And people forget that at times. They played 2 seasons together in Miami, Ohio.
Right.
And both put up great numbers. Davidson started as a freshman, 24 games, put up 11 points per game, had 20 starts as a sophomore, put up 5 points per game, kind of took a step back in the scoring element, but then rebounded when she went to IUPUI and turned around and ended up with 16 and a half, 19 and a half in 2 seasons there, comes here and is averaging 12 and a half per game. Then you look at Eden Battle. She doesn't play a whole lot as a freshman at Miami, Ohio. Second year, she kind of works her way into a starting role, averages double figures. Then she goes to Jacksonville and just absolutely goes off. 20 plus on average in each of her 2 seasons with Jacksonville, then returns to South Florida, ends up with her former teammate in Katie Davidson, and now they're balling out together. I love that. I just think there's so much fun with that. Then you add the talent of Ingram and what she brings as a former power program type of player, averaged 3 points per game with Georgia, 8 starts, 28 games back in 23-24. Then another inter-conference transfer, or within the conference transfer, after playing at Florida Atlantic last year. So there's a lot of mixing and matching, but it's all very... And honestly, like I said initially, Jose Fernandez still has his fingerprints on this team.
100%.
This is all very Jose Fernandez and what he did. I give credit to Coach Woods Baxter of continuing that and seeing the vision initially. But Jose Fernandez would have never left this situation if it wasn't the confidence level that he had that they would continue winning, and they are currently doing that.
And it's just a seamless transition because Woods Baxter has been there, as you said, for 18 seasons, so she knows what the standard is at South Florida. And I think one thing that plays to an advantage for South Florida is the fact that they've dominated in the American for so long. And I think that that's something, unless you played and you were a part of a team that won a lot in a conference, you might not totally understand, because there's just a bit more of an intimidation factor when teams play South Florida that you might not have otherwise, because they're used to them always being at the top, always winning. So even when they're down in games, those other teams, those opponents are probably always a little bit worried about them coming back. Again, it's not foolproof. I'm not saying people are scared. That's not what I mean. It's just this little extra respect that you've earned from being so successful in this conference for so long that gives you a bit of an upper hand. Now you have to continue to uphold that standard. You have to continue to keep winning games, and they've done that. So I think that also helps them, along with all the X's and O's and the personnel and the coaching changes and coaching staff that they have. But that extra factor certainly helps.
I have 2 words to describe everything you just said. Winning culture.
Yes.
That's what it is at South
100%.
Florida. It's winning culture. And they've continuously won. They've continuously been contenders. And whether or not it's a different group of personnel, different group of players specifically, or a different group of coaches, which it's still a similar group of coaches, just not without head coach Fernandez. And this, the reason why we're talking about this is the first time we're talking about South Florida in depth on this show. It's going to continue. They have a winning culture, and that's going to continue. You're seeing the same thing across the conference in a couple of different areas. You think about Memphis on the men's side of things. You think about Florida Atlantic on the men's side of things. How about North Texas on the women's side of things, and East Carolina and what they've been doing? You see it on both sides of the men's and women's game. If you have a culture established, no matter what is happening within the personnel and the transfer portal and coaching changes and all of the wild, wild west of collegiate athletics, you're still going to have a chance to win, and that's what South Florida has. Now, their wins aren't against the upper echelon of the league quite yet. They did fall to Rice. They beat North Texas. That's their best win so far. Actually, I take that back. UTSA is probably their best win so far. Yeah, and that beat them by 17.
It was a very convincing performance.
Very convincing win.
I was watching that. I was impressed.
So apologies. They have 2 solid wins so far, But they've got some coming up that we have to keep an eye on. They will face North Texas again. They will face UTSA again, both on the road in that time around. They've got Tulane on the road. They've got Rice on the road. East Carolina on the road. They do not have, kind of like what we were just talking about with East Carolina, they don't have the same benefactor of a favorable schedule. At some point, South Florida is going to have some adversity, and that's where I'm really going to be dialed in on how Michelle Woods-Baxter and how some of these transfers that have played such a big factor in how they've gotten to this point, I'm interested to see how much they take a step forward and how they can overcome some of that adversity. Lots of winning culture there, lots of opportunity for the Bulls this season. Tulsa, same kind of thing. This is another team that has had a solid start to the season. Tulsa and the Golden Hurricane, 12-5 to start. They win 4 of their first 5 American Conference games. What has impressed you the most about what they've done?
I think it's just the rebound effect from last year, because I think you lose somebody like Delaney Crawford and you're still unsure of where this team's going to go, and they were down a little bit last season. I've been really impressed with the freshman Dora Toman. I feel like every week we're giving her some kind of award at the conference level because of the performances that she's been having. And I also think, to your point about schedules and different things like that, they've won the games that they were supposed to, and maybe even ones where you thought they could be outmatched. And so I think consistency is my biggest key right now for Tulsa. If they can continue to be consistent, they don't have anything incredibly flashy all the time, like we talked about East Carolina and their defense, or South Florida and some of their players who just stand out on the stat sheet. Now, they do have a couple, don't get me wrong, but I think it's the consistency of this Tulsa team that stands out the most to me.
Yeah, this is a big week for them. Rice this week, and then they get North Texas on the road on Saturday. I'm calling that game. I'm excited to see them and see them up close and personal. I'll get to talk with Coach Angie Nelp this week, but they can shoot the rock.
Tell me more.
Yes, 43% from the field as a team. And they're knocking down three-pointers at a very, very high level. You talk about threes made, 130 so far this year. You've got Toman, who's hit 24 triples. How about Cartwright? What a season she's had so far.
She's been fun to watch.
Cartwright,
I really like
one of the leading scorers in the conference, the junior out of Arkansas, averaging 16 a game. She's hit 37 threes. Another one of those.
Is that a lot?
That's a lot of threes. 37 threes in how many games? 18 games so far. Wow. 17 games so far this season. So you piece that all together. They've got the shooting element down. Got to play a little bit of defense, which I'm sure Coach Angie Nelp has talked about. But when you look at their schedule or not the schedule, but you look at their stats and their defensive totals, they're top 5 in the conference in opponents' points per game too. So they're still playing some 3 and D. You got to find a way to force some turnovers and kind of give yourself some extra possessions. You mentioned last year, that was such a weird outlier for them.
So weird.
They were American Conference regular season champions in that 3-way tie with North Texas and Temple 2 years ago. Then they come back last year. They were still a 5 seed, so they were a top 5 seed in the tournament. But I still felt like it was a little underachieving because they lost some big games in last year's schedule. They went 11-7 in American Conference play. So it was a step back, but I think they're right back to where they probably anticipated to be, even though they were picked 8th out of 13 teams in the American Conference. So maybe a little under the radar to start. If they have a big week this week against Rice and North Texas, all of a sudden I think they're a team that everybody's talking about as a contender in the league.
I think under the radar is the best way to describe it, because we didn't really know what they would be coming into the season because of the little – again, they finished 5th in the conference. It's not like they were in the bottom half, but it was more of a stumble from 2 years ago. And so I think that underratedness has helped them. Now, if they can continue to do all the things that you just mentioned that they're good at, I think it puts them in a really good position to stay in that kerfuffle and maybe work out of it. See, I'm using the word again, because when I look at these standings, they're like right there on the cusp of the kerfuffle. Look at that. What's that alliteration? Yeah, because they have.
I need to make a T-shirt with that on there.
Yeah, they're 4-1. They're trying to get into that upper half of the conference, and so I don't know. I've really enjoyed watching them play because I think that
they play a fun brand of basketball.
Yeah, it's like defense is really fun to watch, but when you have somebody who can just shoot the lights out, like. When they're making it, obviously, I'm sure they don't enjoy when they're missing those shots, but
that's basketball.
Exciting. Yeah, ball.
that's basketball in general. They can put up points. They put up 94 against Temple. I'm looking back at some of these other games. 101 against Mississippi Valley State in non-conference play. They put up 80. Maybe that's it. But I mean, they're averaging over 70 a game for the most part in each of these contests. They did have an easier non-conference slate, but they beat some teams that had conference wins in the American outside of that. They started 5-0. They beat Oral Roberts, which is a team that knocked off North Texas.
Right.
And so common opponents, you can kind of look at all of that kind of stuff, and it ends up being pretty comparable. I think Angie Nelp has that thing heading in the right direction. Speaking of great coaches, though, how about Karen Aston and UTSA talking about what they've done? Oh, how about this? This is pretty I think this is interesting because they took the opposing mascot of Florida Atlantic and just I don't know what to call it. Is that a defacing of the mascot? I don't know.
I don't really know. I mean, we're always trying to talk about creative social things, and I'm not sure what's going on here.
Okay, so if that's the case, I'm with you. I love the try here, UTSA, but I think I need more.
Yeah, maybe I need more context.
I mean, the caption's got to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I looked at this and I was like, what are they doing? I saw this the other day and I was like, I get it. It's a dub, but why are you putting the opposing mascot and just trying to put the score on the chest?
I'm going to give the effort.
There's effort.
There's effort there. And
execution, not so much.
Yeah, and that's okay because please keep taking these chances. You know
what's going to happen now. They're going to clip this and then turn around and we're going to be a part of the next
that's fine.
Graphic
you know what?
or opportunity.
Because I will also give so much credit where credit is due with creativity.
Yeah.
Last week when we were watching the Florida Atlantic trolling of Memphis and Penny Hardaway,
really good.
It was really creative. And if Memphis wants to pull a clip of us from that too, that's what we run the risk of. So I like your effort, UTSA. We're going to work on it together, but I think the one positive in all of this is you did get the victory. Your team is playing some good basketball. You have a great coach in Karen Aston, and you should be excited about that.
Yes, you should. You should absolutely be excited about it. And it may not be the same level of talent across the board. I said this on the opening show of All-American when it came to basketball. I don't think it's the same UTSA team, but you're replacing Jordan Jenkins, who was a program great at what she did.
You can't replace her,
you can't, but they are doing a pretty darn close job at doing so. And taking down Florida Atlantic in emphatic fashion was impressive. We talked about that game against South Florida. I was underwhelmed at how they competed in that game, not from an effort standpoint, but from an execution standpoint. When you lose by 17 to a South Florida team, which is not out of the equation, I just thought it would be closer.
I agree with you.
That's my one knock right now in what they're doing. But man, they've got talent all the way up and down. They don't have the high end scoring that they once did, but they have depth here. They've got at least 6 players that are averaging over 6 points per game, all the way from Rowe to Hallman down there in the middle of the roster. This is a team that can put up points, but it's not in the same way that they put them up in the past. Where they are really good is on the defensive side of the floor.
Yeah, and I think that we talk about Jordan Jenkins. You're never going to replace a Jordan Jenkins, but what are you going to do with what you have? You have a lot of returners that we talked about in the first basketball episode of All-American coming back from a season ago, and you also have a phenomenal head coach who knows how to win basketball games. And so I think those two components, I agree with you that the South Florida loss, I was scratching my head a little bit because I don't think it should have been that much of a deficit, and I'm sure that Karen Aston would probably say the same thing. So when those two teams, if they meet again, I want to see what UTSA's response is because I don't foresee that happening again. I think that this team has components of players who can come together and win, play good defense. They're not going to score like they did last year, but I think that because they're well coached, they're going to find ways to win basketball games.
Yeah.
And I think that they're still in the, I keep going back to kerfuffle. What was another adjective that you used before? Brouhaha. I'm not going to say brouhaha. I can't do it. I just did. But I think that they're going to be in contention in that top half as the season goes on because they know how to win and because of the people that they have not only on the floor but coaching on the sidelines as well.
And I'm looking this up currently. So hold on for just 1 second. But when it comes to their defense, they're the number one opponent's scoring average in the conference. They only average or they only allow 56 points per game, which is a vast improvement from 63 points per game allowed last year. Part of that is by design. Part of that is because they're taking away possessions. They're slowing down the basketball. They're being methodical when they get past half court and setting up into sets. And in the women's game, the sets are uber important, and you've got a coach that's really good at piecing together those sets. So with all of that together, I think they will take some of these games and they're going to win some of these basketball games that they probably wouldn't have won at other points in the year. However, they just don't have the scoring element that they've had in the past. And you look at their schedule and what they have coming up, they're going to be tested in that scoring element because they're going to have to face East Carolina. Memphis gets up and down the floor. North Texas gets up and down the floor. Rice, we've talked about them and how well-rounded they are. They are in the meat of their schedule right now. And it's not just because it's the talent level that they're going to play over these next few games. It's the pace of play is going to pick up. And that's not what they want. They want to stop the ball at half court. They want to force you to get into a set just as they would on their possession and then work off of that going forward. So lots of excitement still there in UTSA, and I think they should continue to be excited because they have talent, they have players. Got to find a way to piece it all together. I think the interconference transfers, they are a theme. I told you earlier. Ariana Hardaway playing quite well for them. She's been leading in scoring a couple times as well. They've got some playmakers. Just got to find them on the right nights.
You want to talk about the team that Ariana Hardaway came from?
The North Texas Mean Green.
North Texas Mean Green, and you are the expert on the North Texas
Am
Mean
I?
Green. Well, you've called a couple other games.
Jason
already this
Burton
year.
probably wouldn't agree with that. He'd say he's the expert.
He's the expert?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're the second expert. Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
No, this is another team with a completely new group. They don't have Tamisha Lampkin. They don't have some of the higher end talent. They lost Kyla Deck to SMU. They lost Ariana Hardaway to UTSA, but they bring in Asia Proctor, who's been tremendous for them as a scorer, one of the higher scoring elements in the American Conference. Megan Nestor, a transfer from Wayland Baptist, is one of the best stories in all of college basketball right now, and that's men's or women's. Transfer from Wayland Baptist, originally out of St. Lucia, a netball player who learned basketball late in life, picks up the opportunity to come stateside, play, now has a Division I scholarship, is playing at a very high level, only player in the conference averaging a double-double, had a 34-31 game against Texas Southern in non-conference play, the fourth 30-30 game at the Division I level in the last 40 years. And so just an incredible story. Now she's giving back to St. Lucia and sending support and sending donations back to St. Lucia to help those that came from or that are coming from where she came from to try to either learn basketball or further their education. It's all really, really cool. Be sure to check it out and look it up. I think there's a couple of local stations that are doing some stories on it. And she's been so good on the basketball floor that it adds to the story because not only has she been trying to make an impact in her community and in her home, but also she's made a huge impact for Jason Burton's Mean Green and continues to be one of the more entertaining and consistent players in the American Conference.
I teared up a little bit listening. Like, that's just so awesome. I feel like that's a big reason why we do this, right? Like, we're looking at her graphic with all of her numbers right now, and clearly she's performing incredibly well on the basketball court. But I think so often we talk about numbers and the X's and O's, and we never actually get into the people.
Yep.
And that story right there is just a perfect example of these student athletes are human beings beyond their sport, which we need to remember, especially in this era of college athletics. And I think it's so awesome when you see somebody who is just giving back like that because of the sport, right? But, man, now I forget what I was going to say.
Yeah, can I be a dude for just a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I love all that, and I love the story, but it's not the same story if she's not putting up a double-double and averaging incredible numbers.
I still think it's a great story.
It is
I don't
a great
care
story.
I do care
I love
that she's
it.
putting up
I'm the one that brought
double-double.
up the story.
I know, but I know that's a very dude response.
She is balling, though. Let's be completely honest.
Yes,
and that's where I think North Texas is missing the same players they did last year. They don't have Tamisha Lampkin, but they have a combo of players, an inside-out game that they really do like. The number one thing for them is trying to continue that consistency and hold on to the basketball. They've been snake bitten by some turnovers at different times throughout the year, most notably on the road against South Florida in their first conference loss of the year. And then in the middle parts of that game against Rice, where Rice doesn't turn over the basketball. They ended the first quarter, Rice did, in that game without a turnover. North Texas had 7. And then at some point in the game, Rice was outscoring North Texas in terms of points off of turnovers, like 16-4. So if you can limit that and try and even out those categories, all of a sudden they have just as much talent as they've had in the past. You just got to keep the fundamental aspect alive for North Texas, and I think Jason Burton would agree with me there.
And as somebody who's watched them and seen a lot of their games throughout the last couple of years, and you've seen the way that Jason Burton approaches things, you said he would agree with you, but like, what do you think it will take for them to clean up some of those little things? Like, where are they coming from? Is it just not being in the system long enough? Is it coming from just like casual mistakes? Like, what is it?
That's a great question, and part of that is what he's going to try and sift through. I think part of that is the lineup, and they've had some players in and out due to injury. They had Adele Tack, who came back from injury, was expected to be a big part of this team last year, transfer from TCU, transfer from UTEP, didn't play because of injury, comes back, plays for 5 games, plays well, but still wasn't in total game shape, and they were wanting to ramp her up going closer to conference play. She hasn't been back. She's been hurt and hasn't played since December 21st. So that plays a factor. Jalen Talley as well. They lost TK Hammond throughout the season as well. They're a little shorthanded and they're young in certain areas. Cherie Spencer is a phenomenal freshman guard. She's been playing lights out. Micaiah Chase is a junior transfer, a former junior college All-American who's been tabbed with ball handling, but she hadn't been a ball handler since high school. So a lot of new roles and new lineups and new rotations, and he played around with it a little bit in non-conference play, and it worked. They won some games, but they ended up going into the middle of conference play at 7-7 and weren't necessarily playing their best basketball. It's getting close. It is really close to being a really good basketball team across the board. I think another junior college transfer that they really want to see step up is Andy Schisler. Comes from Casper College, where she was a first-team junior college All-American, lights-out shooter from beyond the arc, averaged 19 points per game at the junior college level. She's averaging about 7 points per game now and just hasn't had the same impact that you would anticipate. But, boy, she's got everything talent-wise.
Right.
When she's on, she is on. And if she finds a way to spark that offense and spark the scoring, that's the missing piece in my opinion, because you have some scorers, you have some ball handlers, you got great defense, and you got great rebounding. You need an outside threat, because this is a team that does not hit a whole lot of threes.
Mm-hmm.
They're bottom 3 in the conference in 3-point makes on average. They're bottom 5 in the conference in terms of 3-point percentage. So if Andy Schisler comes in and starts hitting some threes, all of a sudden they've got every element of a really good team. That's all it's going to need. So not to put a lot of pressure on one specific player, but that's where they're at. They need to hit the 3 ball a little bit better. Everything else is already there, and she's a big factor on how they could possibly do that in the future.
I'll make sure I send this whole clip to Jason Burton to see if he agrees with your analysis. But
he's probably watching anyway.
Probably. It sounds like a good analysis to me. Let's move on to the Tulane Green Wave. That's another team who's maybe not in that top half right now. Mm-hmm. Some up and down. In conference play and non-conference play. They're just trying to figure things out. But I do think that there are components for them to be a competitive team within the league. They're just trying to figure it out.
What is the components that you're looking for?
I think for me is just, I keep saying consistency, and I know that it sounds like I'm a broken record, but I think for me it's the fact that you see them have a good win, right? And then they'll struggle a little bit and then fall to a team that I think that they can beat. And then they have some of those good returners, and then they don't perform at the level that you want them to. So I think it's just gelling all together and coming together as a consistent threat. And I think that's what's going to help them. I think Ashley Langford did a really good job in her first year as the head coach, just getting them to obviously everybody makes the conference tournament, but performing well in some of those early games. I think she needed to pick up where she left off. And I think that's where the disconnect is for me.
Okay. I like that. I think part of it is starting fast. They've had a couple of games where they haven't fallen, or they haven't started the game that they wanted to. I think the games against UTSA and Tulsa and North Texas are all very good indications of that, because They lost by 2 to UTSA. They lose by 3 to Tulsa. They come back with a furious effort in the second half against North Texas after they were really shut down in the first half of that game. And then the games that they do start fast, Temple, UAB, Wichita State, all of a sudden you're looking at this and saying, oh, wow, they look like the Tulsa or the Tulane team that was picked to finish top 5 in the American in the preseason poll. So I think if you can get off to a hot start and set the tone early, it's going to lead you in the right direction more often than not. And they have a number of players that can lead this team in scoring. You look up and down their stat sheet, they've got 3 players that are averaging double figures, but Mabry will lead the team in scoring one day. Daniel will lead this team in scoring another day. Marshall will lead the team in scoring. Sneed has done it before. Mays has done it before. So if you have a number of players that can put up 20, 25 points per game, depending on any given night, then all of a sudden I think you're moving in the right direction, but you just got to get off to the start that Coach Langford and company want. They're not playing great defense right now, and part of that is early in games they are allowing too many open looks, too many great opportunities, and so far the perimeter has not been friendly to them either. So piecing all that together, they're 11th in opponents' points per game, but they're top 6 in points per game themselves. Get off to a better start. Find your rhythm early, and then all of a sudden I think this is a team that's just as talented as some of those other top teams we've already talked about.
When you are looking at them getting off to a fast start, and you just mentioned some of the things that they've struggled with, do you think it's more physical or mental? Like, do you think it's like a mentality that they're starting slower, or do you think it's like physical mistakes that they need to clean up?
Part of it depends on the game.
Yeah.
Because there's been a couple of them where they've had early turnovers, and those turnovers have turned into opponents' points and different things that would not help you in that factor. And like what we just talked about when it comes to field goal percentage, that's big too, because opponents' field goal percentage right now, they are bottom 5 in terms of field goal percentage allowed. So what that tells me is that they're still doing fine in terms of getting out there and guarding the perimeter, but it's not a perfect science with Tulsa or Tulane so far. They've got to find a way to make some noise from a defensive standpoint more consistently, and that's one way that I think they can maybe move in the right direction and get off to those quick starts.
That was kind of a loaded question. I put you on the spot there, but it was more
I'm searching for the answer because I don't know if they have it themselves. I don't know if Angie or Ashley Langford has it themselves when it comes to why there are slow starts, or else they wouldn't be having slow starts.
It was like my inner dialogue, like the intrusive thoughts that you're supposed to not say on TV. I was like, well, do you think it's physical or mental? And I was like, that was probably a hard question to ask.
Also, this is show 1 of deep dive into women's basketball this season. We'll get better as we go along, and I'll have a better answer for you as I see more games.
Yeah,
we're still very early in conference play. We're 6 games into this thing, like there's trends which we can go by. Is that ultimately the identity of each of these teams? Maybe not. You might be who you are at this point in time, but when it's a 3-3 team in conference play like Tulane, I don't think we can put too much stock into why they are who they are through 6 games. There's a lot going on there moving forward. Same can be said for a team like Charlotte. This is a team that was picked 10th out of 13 teams. They're still top half whenever it comes to Tamika Reed and what they're doing. This is a much better team than what they had dealing with last year. 11-21 last year, and now they're winning some games. They're almost close to equaling what they did in the American a year ago.
Well, I talked about this on the first episode where we were talking about basketball, just what Tamika Reed and her staff has done. They were at Jackson State and they had a lot of success, and now they're coming to the American. Last year was kind of like the test year, and nobody wants anything to be a test year, but it's the first year where they're figuring things out. How can they win here? And I think you're starting to see it. I know they're 2-3 in conference play, but look at who their losses were to in conference play. It's those top teams that we just talked about. They lost to Rice, they lost to UTSA, and they lost to Tulsa. Those are their 3 losses. So I think when they get to the part of their schedule where they're playing maybe the teams that aren't in those upper echelons, I think we'll know what kind of basketball team they are. They're already winning the games they're supposed to, and then maybe later in the season they take some of those games against the top opponents. And so I think that you're seeing more from this team than you did last year. I'm sure as a staff they want to see even more, but I don't know. Like you just said, it's way too early to decide who's going to be where, but there's just something about this team that makes me think, I think we could see them in Birmingham. I think they could be one of those teams that makes the tournament.
Top 10 teams make the tournament. Charlotte looks like a top 10 team in the conference, and I say that not because they just won a couple of games, but because they won them in convincing fashion. They dismantled Memphis, which that Memphis team has its own problems. They're very undisciplined. They turn the ball over a ton. It's just not a solid Memphis team right now. Charlotte took full advantage of that and beat them 62-49. That's what that game turned into. Same for UAB, a team that has struggled to hit shots like they have in years past under Randy Norton and company. So They win those two games. They start 2-0. We're moving in the right direction, right? Charlotte's back, baby. They're making it happen. I still think this is a much better team than they were last year, but they're still trying to fight to get back to what they were in 2024, what they're trying to get back to when they were back in Conference USA. When they went to the NCAA tournament back in 2022, they were one of the more undefeated or one of the more impressive teams in the mid-major level that year across the board. I think Coach Reed has every opportunity to do that. She did nothing but win at Jackson State. Now she's trying to find a way to build this program and get it back to relevancy in the American. They are close. They really are. And it's going to be tough against some of those teams. You've just seen it in 3 straight games. But you've got Anderson, who's been playing at an extremely high level. Princess Anderson, who, of course, was at Wichita State. What's been the theme of the whole show?
In conference transfers.
Why does it happen? I don't know.
I actually want to make
I
want to make a graphic of
where they're all together.
Yeah,
it's
I want
to
see it. We've talked about it. Almost every team has at least one player from another American team from last year, and I think it's interesting because I think it's saying something about the conference and the competitiveness, but also I think when you're getting an in-conference transfer, it's a benefit for you because you know.
They know the competition level.
Yeah, and now you're bringing them into a system. You bring them into your system, and you have a better idea of how they can perform against those opponents. So I kind of like it.
Yeah, I do too. And she goes from 9.5 points with Wichita State last year to 15 points a game this year. And she wasn't even a full-time starter until, midway through the year. Here's a look at some of the other 49ers leaders. I'm looking at when she started these games. Yeah, so she still worked her way into it. The other thing that I think is interesting is this Charlotte team found a way to go and be a part of some of the more premier MTEs, those multi-team events that you see in college basketball. The Cayman Islands Classic. I've actually called a couple of those games before out in the Cayman Islands. Crazy trip and usually really good.
Did you go to the Cayman Islands?
Oh yeah, we were on site. Yeah, it was awesome. But the tournament was the best part because it's premier basketball.
Yeah.
They played against Oklahoma State, played them really well. Lost by 9 in that game against a top 25 team. Played and beat Wofford in that tournament too. Then they go to the Raising the Bar Invitational and play pretty well in that game as well. Didn't play well against LSU. LSU's a national championship contender, though. And they learned a lot, I think, throughout their season. Now they're taking it into conference play, hitting a little bit of adversity in this road bump over these last few games. Charlotte they were at that what is it? 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood. They are at
Robert
that
Frost?
Yeah, they're in Robert Frost territory right now, Charlotte. You got one way is to contending in the conference and really taking a step forward, or the other way is you're going to end up right back where you were previously. I think they're closer to taking the road less traveled, and that's the one that would take them to being a contender in the conference moving forward.
So kerfuffle, poems.
Now I'm bringing out the poetry, baby.
I could tell you took the SAT multiple times from that.
I did.
At age 26. But that's a story for another time.
That means I lost my fantasy football league is what happened.
Let's take a look at the schedule for the upcoming
True story,
weeks,
by the way.
next couple weeks.
True story, everybody.
We'll have to take a nice...
Maybe it's a social content.
I think it's a social content piece. Kyle, in the next couple weeks, schedule, page 1. What are you looking at?
Well, first off, man, I cannot wait to watch that high-level broadcast of Tulsa and North Texas coming up this weekend. And what they've got coming up on Saturday. I'll be on the call for that. Can't wait for that one alongside Brian Burton and company. That'll be a fun one. And honestly, just all tongue-in-cheek and all sarcasm aside, I think that's going to be a really good game. Tulsa's still trying to prove themselves, as we talked about a minute ago. Who knows what happens between them and Rice earlier in the week. And then North Texas, same thing. They've lost to South Florida. They've lost to Rice. But they still look like they're a top 3 or 4 team in the conference. Can they establish that themselves. And then I'm also looking down there at Rice and UTSA.
Yes.
Can that be the game where UTSA says, hey, we were regular season champions a year ago. We're going to reestablish ourselves in the mix here and upend Rice. I think that could be a really fun one.
And we should note that this is the only page of games. That was my mistake. I said there were multiple pages. But I know. I'm so sad.
Now
but
I was excited for the second page.
I know. Well, there aren't, but there's lots of games.
Hey, but if you want to know what the whole schedule is, you can go online to the Americans website and talk about the opportunity there and go look at all the schedule. The full schedule is there and where to watch all those games.
All the schedules and scores and all the content online. But before you do that, we want you to stick around here on All American because we have a special interview coming up from an East Carolina women's basketball player.
Oh.
Do you remember?
It's Kennedy Fauntleroy.
All right.
Check it out.
Yeah, those two seniors have shined for the Pirates today, especially in this fourth quarter. New season high for Fauntleroy, who's back in her bag, adding to her great night with an and one.
I'm joined now by East Carolina women's basketball player Kennedy Fauntleroy. Kennedy, welcome to All American.
Thank you.
We are so excited that you're here, and a big reason why is because of your performances on the court last week. So we're going to talk about your team in just a little bit, but let's start with you because you look like you're playing some of your best basketball right now. Why is that?
I don't know, the confidence that my team and my coach has been instilling in me. That's really it. We're just trying to get a good place in the conference. So,
You can certainly see the confidence in both you and your team while you're on the court. Let's talk about that team now. You've done a fantastic job. You won your 2 games last week. You've been on this winning streak as well. What has helped the Pirates play so well on the court right now?
I would just say Coach Kim emphasized to us focusing on defense instead of, scoring more. So I think that collectively our team is just working on just holding people under their average, playing defense, and we'll let the offense come to us.
You certainly see the defense playing its part. For you and the other women on this team, how are you able to buy into what Coach Kim is saying about the defense and about just holding people underneath their average?
Well, we know Coach Kim is a winner. She wants the best for us, but she also loves us. So it's pretty easy to buy in when somebody really cares about you, and they want the same goal as you, and everybody here wants the same goal. So,
if you could describe the chemistry and the camaraderie of your team, how would you do it?
It's definitely a level of togetherness that it's kind of hard to come by. But I don't know. We automatically clicked as a team, and we know that all of us want to win. So it's pretty easy to talk to each other and get along and have that chemistry when you all want the same goal. So
when you take a look at the American Conference, there's just so many teams right there at the top with either one loss or no losses. It's been really exciting to watch. For you, what will it take for East Carolina to stay in the top of the pack?
Defense. I'll keep saying what Coach Kim preaches to us. Defense, definitely defense, and offense here and there, but we really focus in on defense because defense wins games. So, yeah, I would say defense.
I think we certainly got the message. Defense is what's going to win East Carolina basketball games. When you take a look ahead at this upcoming schedule, is the answer going to be defense once again? Is that how you're going to beat the teams that you have coming up?
I would say so. We got a lot of good teams coming up. We probably UAB again, Tulsa again, Rice, all of them. We're trying to really, try to hold them under their average, and they score a lot, and these are really good teams. So, defense is going to be very important for us to get over that hump and try to stay in that top, I guess, 4, I would say, maybe 3.
Absolutely. Well, Kennedy, thank you so much for your time. You've been a lot of fun to watch on the court, both you and your team, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much.
How fun was that?
It was so much fun. She's been crushing it.
Yeah, she's one of the best players in the conference right now.
One of the best players in the conference. Obviously, one of the top players on her team. We talked about her already earlier. A big reason why East Carolina is having success.
Yeah. Yeah, a really all-around player, and like we talked about earlier, Coach McNeill wants her to be the defensive player of the year, wants her to be the player of the year in the conference. She's got a pretty good resume so far. Got to win some more games and continue taking steps in the right direction, but East Carolina is doing that currently. Can't wait to see what she does throughout the year.
Me too. You ready to play another game this week?
Okay, so this last week, I thought we did pretty well.
Yes,
I feel like the standard is very high this week.
Yeah.
Did you study for this?
I didn't.
Okay, I didn't either.
No,
so
because
we
I think
are
that's
absolutely
cheating. Like, it's cheating if we looked it up.
We are out to dry. So last week we did this on the All-American Men's Show. Here this week, we're going to talk about the last time each women's team in the American made it to the NCAA Tournament. I think we did pretty well last week.
We did, I think
This
so.
week I feel like is going to be a whole different animal. Let's start it. We're going to go in alphabetical order here, which is on the guessing. So we're going to start with UAB, Charlotte, East Carolina, and FAU. What do you think for UAB?
2011.
2011. That's a pretty good guess. They had some really good runs in Conference USA.
Okay.
So I'm going to go 2014 for UAB. What do you think for Charlotte?
2022.
I said that earlier.
Yes.
I've got that one down.
Yes.
I just want to see if you were paying attention.
I was.
Okay, good. East Carolina is recent.
Yes, I know this. Wait, I got to do the math. So South Florida won last year, Rice the year before. So that's 2023
Yes.
for
East Carolina's got that one. FAU.
Ooh, I don't know. 2005.
I'm going to say it's longer. I'm going to say 97.
All right, let's see.
97.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay.
So UAB was a little bit further back than I anticipated.
We were off. We were close.
We got Charlotte and East Carolina.
Yep, and then we were close on the Florida Atlantic guess.
I was not. You were. You had 05. I said in the 90s.
I did,
I said
yeah.
97.
But that's okay.
Yep,
It's
so
teamwork.
missed that one. Okay.
Okay,
Moving on.
next one.
Memphis, North Texas. I do know North Texas, so I'm not going to say it yet.
Okay,
You know Memphis.
I have no idea.
This is also a little unfair because I've also called the top 3 teams there.
Yeah.
And Rice is 2024. That
Yeah,
happened
and
2
South
seasons
Florida's
ago.
2025 because they won
last year. So
I don't
those
know
top
the
two.
top two.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Memphis was 1998.
Okay.
And North Texas is the longest streak in the conference at 1986. Boom.
Wow.
But I just called
but that's
called those
not
games.
like fake cheat. Like that's not real cheating. That's like fake cheating.
That was
like
before I
yeah.
even knew this was the game.
Yeah, so I'm not like gonna hold that against you. That was
Okay,
good.
well that's good. Okay, so we got that page down. What's the next one? This is the longer page. We got Temple, UTSA, Tulane, Tulsa, Wichita State.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm gonna guess Temple 2015.
Did they do it after the Don Staley era?
Oh wait, when this is actually a very legitimate question. When did UConn enter and leave the American? Because
there was a whole
there's a whole
time period
where
there.
it would just unless somebody got an at-large. That's actually so. UConn left the American in 2020, I believe.
Was it right?
Yeah,
right
it was
before
right
then?
after I graduated because Stewie won the 4 in a row all in the
Am I allowed to
American.
look that up? Is 2020? Zach Fisher is feeding us great information. in the
Okay,
back.
so maybe let's say
2020 was when they left.
Okay, so let's say Temple won in 2021.
I'm going to say 21.
Yeah.
That's where I'll go. All right,
Okay.
UTSA. What do you got there? It's not in the Karen Aston era, though they
Yeah.
probably could have.
2015.
I'm going to say 2008.
Okay.
I think it was a little bit longer. Tulane.
2000.
Yeah, we just saw a team that was from. Oh, well, I guess they could have been in
Yeah.
different conferences by then. I'm going to
Yeah.
say 2016.
Okay.
2016. Tulsa.
See, no, you can't say 20. I know UConn was in the American. in
They could have had
2016?
multi-bids.
You think it would have gone at large
Could
bid?
have. I don't
Okay.
know. Don't
I'm
Don't
trying
quiz
to
me
help
on
you
this.
out. Trying to help you out.
I don't know.
Tulsa 2014.
I'm going to say 2013. I was
Okay.
right around that same one. And then Wichita State.
1995.
You think it was that long ago?
Yeah.
2007.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
wow.
that was
We
rough.
were way off.
Temple win in 2017. Interesting.
Dang. Okay.
UTSA was close, 2009.
Okay.
Tulane, 2015. Tulsa, 2013. So not as good on the women's side
Yeah.
today as we were last week.
That
We were
second
close
page,
on a couple of them.
Second page.
Hey,
did
we
well.
did nail that
we
second
crushed
page.
the second page.
Got that one. That
Yeah.
was pretty good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you talk about what the American was when UConn was in the league, one, they were a great RPI opportunity.
Right.
So you got to see a lot
Multiple
of the
bid leagues.
multi-bid season. So that's part of it. But
Alright.
that's our best guessing game possible.
Yeah,
We'll do
not
better
great.
research in terms of NCAA tournament trivia moving forward. Have some good ideas for that as well as we continue on. You ready for top plays?
Let's do it. I'm not
Okay.
going to hang you out to dry this week, I don't think.
Ah, thank goodness. That's why I'm going to start this week. You know what I love to see in basketball season? It's not the threes. It's not the dunks. I like to see some good old-fashioned defense. Get out of here with that weak stuff. I love the block party that Memphis had on this one. How about this one? William Wharton over the top. He went sky high for the block. He almost kept, first off, the best part about this is that it didn't go like 3 rows deep.
Right.
It went in play off of the shooter, and then it was a teammate that picked it up and they go the other direction.
I really wish that this one was wrong because you gave such an emphatic call of that. And if it was wrong, I would have just laughed. And I would have been like, oh, I did it again.
Maybe this next one.
I told him the wrong.
Now you got to take the next
Now
one.
I got to take the next one. All right. I'm pretty convinced that I did this right this week.
Okay.
Top play number 4. We had something similar last week. I think this is where you messed up on the Florida Atlantic alley-oop.
Whoop.
Kanaan Carlyle, this time to Josiah Parker. But I think this is last week I told you it was a different play, and it wasn't.
I'm glad that we got it right this week. Also, the FAU cream uniforms.
Woo!
Good look,
We'll
guys.
have to do it. We'll have to
Good
do a
luck.
uniform comparison.
FAU is rolling.
I know, right?
John Jacobs got them going in the right direction. We'll talk more about that next
I'm
week.
excited about them.
Let's go back to the women's game. How about South Florida in the Yuengling Center? Bulls running out of time here at the end of the third. Eden Battle, who we talked about it. Oh, at the buzzer. Yes, ma'am. She gets it done. Little one stutter step here. Watch this. She shoots this off of one leg, really. Quick release. Nothing but money.
I know.
Cash.
Eden Battle. See, now I have to fix it a little bit.
What did I say?
You were right. Eden Battle passed it to Elena Bulachek.
Oh, it was Bulachek.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But you did a great job on that.
Thank you.
Right?
I saw your script there.
Yeah.
I just read half of it. So
Yeah.
that one's on me.
Okay,
That
good.
one's on me. Yeah,
I'll
go for
I'll
it.
hold you accountable.
Moving on to
Play
number two. Sorry, South Florida.
Sorry, we'll make it better next time, I promise. How about some more Memphis? But this time, Sincere Parker with the layup. Look at that. Whew. Can you do that?
No,
Are you sure?
not at all. Yeah, if I tried to do that in the YMCA, I would throw my shoulder out of rotation. Like it would be out of socket entirely on the reverse lay-in.
Don't do that then.
There's no way to do it.
Absolutely not.
I'm so stiff on a basketball court. It just doesn't work the right way.
Yeah.
It's
Ball
good
was
stuff,
not,
though.
Basketball was not. my
Calling
sport.
basketball is life.
Love watching basketball.
How about
I
that?
was not athletic enough to play the sport. So, anyway.
Yeah, very
out
nice
to you.
reverse lay-in. All right. You know how I said I love watching blocks?
Yes.
How about another block? This time it's Wichita State. It's South Florida. South Florida. Whap! Get out of here. That was on the way up. Watch this slow-mo. That was so close to being a goaltend. It was at the height of the arc on the floater. Blocking a floater is hard to do, first off. He goes so high up in the air, almost hits his head on the rim. Woo! Get out of here with that
You
stuff.
mean you can't jump that high either?
I mean that I can. I can jump that high.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
I just can't-
We're gonna
I just
test
can't
that
twist.
on All American next week. Make sure you tune in.
We're gonna look at the
test Kyle's
vertical-
vertical.
Vertical leap.
On, yeah, I definitely don't want to test mine either.
Damian Collins has me on the vertical.
I think he might have you beat a little bit.
Yeah, he's got me a little
just
bit.
a bit.
Good stuff though.
Good. You
Some
like
good
those top plays? I
defense.
know
Yeah.
you usually like critique the top plays of the week.
No, those are good.
You're
It
good.
was good. Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's going to be better ones next week.
Okay.
I think there's
All
going to be
right.
some better top plays next week. Not because they're bad choices, but just because I think the games are going to start ramping up and we've got some good matchups coming up over the next few weeks.
All right. I hope you're right.
Let's do it. That's going to do it for us here on All-American Today. Once again, if you want to watch all the games, you want to watch our past shows and the men's version from last week, go ahead and check it out on the All-American and the American Conference YouTube channels and all the social channels as well. We will be back next week, talk about the men's game again. Hope you enjoyed this one from Maria Trivelpiece, Zach and Corey in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. See you next time with more All-American.